panelists we have, and I'll start from this side left and kind of my left, your right, I guess, and move forward. Michael Goto, auctioneer with the United Fishing Agency of Honolulu. So, Michael, we'll start with, there we go. Oh, I actually gone right to left now, okay. My list is that way, so. Michael, we'll start with you. And we'll go ahead and again, we'll just go that way down the list. Go ahead, please, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologize for running in late. Security mixed up my jacket at the metal detector, so someone has my wallet in the building, so I might have a hard time getting home now.
Well, did you get a better jacket?
No, I did not. Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak at this hearing for the reauthorization of Magnuson-Stevens Act. I would especially like to thank Senator Brian Schatz for his support and encouragement in having me at this hearing. My name is Michael Goto, and I'm representing the Hawaii-based longline fishery. I'm a third-generation operator of the Honolulu fish auction, the focus of the local seafood industry in the state. I serve on the board of directors of the Hawaii Longline Association, the main co-op of longline fishermen, as well as a council member on the Western Pacific Fishery Management Council. These positions have given me valuable insight into the realm of fisheries management, as well as the impacts of working under the Magnuson-Stevens Act. Members of the committee, my main point to you is simple. The Hawaii-based longline fishery is the most important tuna longline fishery in the United States. It is also a globally iconic model of environmentally responsible longline fishing. This fishery is a standard of sustainability and optimal use of fishing harvest through science-based management and commercial value of its products. This level of success has been achieved in part through the Magnuson-Stevens Act and the 10 national standards. Unfortunately, the MSA is not the only statute with which Hawaii longline fishery must comply. The application of other statutes, specifically the Endangered Species Act, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and conservation members from international tuna conventions have the potential to impede the survival and continuity of the fishery, especially through the misuse of those statutes by litigious advocacy organizations. Additionally, the Hawaii fishery must also contend with market competition from foreign fisheries which may be practicing illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, or IUU, whose adherence to sustainable fishery management is not nearly as regulated as those of any domestic fishery, especially the Hawaii longline fleet. To give you a little background, the Hawaii-based longline fishery consists of a shallow-set swordfish fishery and a deep-set tuna fishery, the latter of which is the core of the industry. Due to Hawaii's geography, the fishery operates mainly in the western Central Pacific Ocean. The target of the deep-set fishery is the Pacific big-eyed tuna, which in its raw form yields the highly coveted product known as sashimi, one of the most highly sought food commodities in the world. Now that you've heard a little bit about the fishery, I'd like to throw some numbers at you for the sake of perspective. In a 2012 NOAA study, the Hawaii longline fleet was only 34th in the nation in landed seafood volume, yet was 5th in total landed value to the tune of $100 million. This amount was only at the base level, before wholesale and retail markups, before considering restaurants and tourism, even air cargo carriers and freight. All told, this small fishery produces nearly $500 million in domestic commerce. From the same 2012 study, the total U.S. domestic landings of big-eyed tuna were around 15 million pounds. The Hawaii longline fleet landed 14 million of this total, translating to about 93% of the take attributed to the Hawaii longline fleet. This relates the importance of big-eye catch to both the Hawaii fleet and the commercial value of which it produces. Domestic is the key word here. Nearly 98% of Hawaii longline landings stay in the state or the continental U.S., with just 2% heading to foreign markets. To reiterate, this is a domestic fleet providing domestic product to a domestic market. Aside from the economic and national significance of the fishery, the underlying value is the great social and cultural importance to the state of Hawaii. The sashimi product has become a staple of local culture in Hawaii. It's the equivalent to crawfish in the Gulf, to salmon in Alaska, to lobster in New England, or to crab in Maryland. To be without this fundamental aspect of Hawaii culture is unthinkable. Hawaii is also critically dependent on seafood, not just as a cultural staple, but as a form of subsistence. Per capita, Hawaii residents annually consume about triple the amount of fish compared to the U.S. average, making locally caught fish a key component of food security to the state of Hawaii. In summary, the Hawaii longline fishery is a low-volume, high-value fishery. It contributes immensely to the economy and commerce to the state of Hawaii and the continental U.S., and sustains the culture and tradition of the state of Hawaii and contributes significantly to the food security of the islands. Talking quickly about management importance, with the guidance of Magnuson-Stevens Act and the 10 national standards, Hawaii fleet has pioneered exemplary fishery management, including the mitigation of protected species, the most important of which, and I see my time is about up, reducing interactions with protected species and impacts on the ecosystem, and complying with international quota-based management for harvesting tuna. I'll fast forward to the end of my ironically, the fisheries supplying tuna into the U.S. market are not held to the same standards in the Hawaii fleet, and I'm of course talking about imports. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing methods are continuously taking advantage of unfair situations that the Hawaii longline fishery finds itself in. With increase in crew transportation, enforcement costs, extreme fuel prices, the Hawaii fleet struggles to survive against these odds, especially with this foreign product undercutting their market and driving them out of business. Ultimately, current management measures in place are in effect giving opportunity for unregulated foreign product to flood the U.S. market, severely crippling the Hawaii fishery and having immeasurable environmental impacts. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much for your testimony.